What do you think, Annie? Can Democrats talk plain English to folks?
I mean, I think that's like, it doesn't seem like that original advice to candidates. I mean, that seems like, I think that have seen some candidates who are succeeding because they're good communicators. Like James Tallarico in Texas seems to be connecting because he's not talking gobbledygook. And
Mamdani.
And Mamdani, right. In that interview, Obama praised Mamdani as someone who was on social media, a good communicator, Graham Plattner in Maine. I think that more than no gobbledygook, that's related to what we're seeing in this cycle, which is like not establishment, not cookie cutter picked by the establishment. They want like real, the Graham Plattner story, the Mamdani story, just like people who are grassroots doing it their own way. And communicating in their own way. So I think it just depends on where you're running, but people can, authenticity.
Yeah, they don't want the 10-point plan.
Yeah.
And Democrats have always been stuck on hiring these massive policy teams to come up with this, you remember this on Hillary Clinton's campaign where like 10-point plan on whatever issue, roll it out. Voters don't want that, we have seen. And I think what's interesting about President Obama is ever since he left office, he has been one of the more popular politicians in our history. And people in the Democratic Party have been frustrated that he is not out there more. But one of his strategies is that he understands in order for the party to be successful, you have to lift up the next generation. And that's been his thing. And that's why you're seeing him lean into Mamdani and some of these younger candidates. And he actually gives a lot of counsel to candidates, not necessarily on television like on Colbert or anything, but I know that a number of candidates do call him and try to get some of his advice whether they should run. And that has been his role in the Democratic Party for quite some time.
But yeah, I think he's so popular because he's not out there more. Yeah. Were he out there more in this world, necessarily his popularity would kind of tank. So it's sort of a bit of a catch-22.
From my vantage point as a Republican, last on the ballot 14 years ago, he's the best the Democratic Party has to offer today. Woo! That is a tough, sad thing for all these governors and all these wannabe presidents. Very sad thing. But also, we are living in a Republican Party that changed because of President Obama's last campaign in 2012. They took Mitt Romney, made him the embodiment of the devil and one of the worst human beings you could possibly be. And he could not have been a better human being, is not rated as one of the best human beings of our lifetimes to run for president. And the response from the Republican Party was, well, we played nice, we played gentlemanly, now we'll fight dirty like you all have been fighting dirty. And the response in the Republican Party is a direct result of Obama politics that now we have the Democratic Party sort of harking back with sort of this hagiography of how nice and gentlemanly that administration was.
That's a little rich that American politics have not involved character assassinations at the beginning of time. A guy literally got caned to a point of blacking out on the floor of the United States Senate at one point in our history.
Well, let's talk about the Republican primary, too, between John McCain and George W. Bush, where there was some pretty nasty stuff thrown around, especially in South Carolina.
I do think that it's fair to say the Trump era is a reaction to Obama, but I don't think it's because they ran a tough campaign against Mitt Romney that is the case.
The response I got from Republican activists was, the way President Trump speaks of his enemies is their vote for him was a direct response for how Obama treated Romney. And that's what I hear regularly. There are other factors for sure, and I'm not trying to argue that you should take away your fandom from President Obama. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the response that he's given a lecture of our current politics 14 years later, the media cycle is different. We have more candidates that instead of speaking like Obama did with a teleprompter and making it sing, are using the F-bomb in order to get a social media cycle. It's very different now.
Can I say some of what I think you're saying back to you? Essentially, the argument is President Obama, the way that he campaigned, the way people think about the way he presented himself on stage, it looks like one thing. It's hope, it's change, it's a nice way of doing things. But what you're saying is that when it actually came to running, he was participating in the exact kind of politics that he's now decrying.
That's
Is that right?
This is why they pay you to talk. I don't get paid to talk.
Well, but I think it's hard to argue that in an era of Donald Trump where you would never see the things Barack Obama say, the things that Donald Trump says now. You would never see him targeting his political enemies the way that Donald Trump does now. And so I think they are very different. And to be honest with you, Barack Obama has been very rarely talks about anything, but he has somewhat signaled that Donald Trump is dangerous. And so I think you cannot compare the two. But at the end, one thing is very clear is when people think about difficult times in our country, they don't think of Donald Trump as bringing the country together. I think that they often think of Barack Obama and in those difficult times, really trying to lean in to bring our country together.
Even where, it's one thing. Let's talk about Bush too. I mean, I just think there was a point at which presidents were the president of the entire country, even for people who did not vote for them. Barack Obama might have been he was a partisan Democrat, but there was no question that when he spoke, literally the man's coming out party was a speech about the audacity of hope and trying to create a broader tent and so on. You could not see Donald Trump giving speeches like that, or that Bush gave uniting the country. And I just think a lot of factors led to the rise of Donald Trump, and maybe Barack Obama was one of them, but you cannot pin the sort of the coarseness of someone who's been a public figure literally since the 1970s on one guy who was president 14 years ago.
I think also just in that interview that he did with Colbert, I think the most interesting jab at Trump he made was that he said our democracy can stand a lot, but the thing that concerns him the most about what's happening right now is the politicization of the Justice Department. The Justice Department has to be independent, can't be going after political enemies, and that was what of all the craziness coming out of the Trump White House, that was what he said is the most concerning to democracy long term. So I think that was the most pointed part of that interview.
Yeah, Congressman, for all of this talk, I take your point about where Republicans are, but I think, having been there when Trump was elected, there were plenty of Republicans who couldn't stand Donald Trump at the time, and they said it, in various private and public forums. What are Republicans saying now privately about this administration? Would they privately agree with Obama that what's going on with the Justice Department is problematic, or would they not?
Well, I think we've learned a lot about the nature of the dossier that dominated Trump's first term.
The Steele dossier?
The Steele dossier.
Okay.
A lot about the politicization of the intelligence community and the Justice Department that the Trump inner circle believes, and their targeting of the Obama Justice Department and intelligence community targeting President Trump and his team. And that would be the couching of the response now. That's what they would say. There is a divide here within the Republicans, but that is the predominant voice you now hear on Capitol Hill. That's probably 75% to 80% of the party. Then there are remainders, and I'm in that remainder that say, regardless of what they did, it doesn't justify doing something in response.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
No, and we should actually set a pace for the world on how our justice system evolves and responds.
All right.